Yeah, we back. We back. Now today's video is going to be a follow-up video to one I dropped the other day entitled Black Trump Supporter Attacks the President of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré. Now, the good brother Brandon, he came back with another video. He's been dropping more videos on the topic. And on this video, he spoke about George Washington because he opened up the panel discussion and some people came up on the panel and tried to raise the argument of saying, you claim to be for democracy. You claim to be against military leaders and military dictatorship. But what do you think about George Washington? These black Republicans, these black conservatives always be, topping off the founding fathers, getting on their knees, worshiping the founding fathers. So they was like, what do you think about George Washington, the military leader who led a coup against the British government, who overthrew the British government, the authoritarian tyrant, George Washington. And of course, these black Republicans, man, no, it's not the same, brother. It's not the same. But, anyways, man, let's get into the video and I'm gonna jump in and out my commentary. Let's go. But before we get into that, man, I want to show love and give a shout out to the dedicated supporters, the valued members, and the esteemed contributors to the channel, man. In a world of mainstream narratives, your support keeps us independent. If you appreciate these videos, be sure to donate and support the platform. Cash App in the description. Now, back to the video.
What do you think George Washington did?
No, that's not what George Washington did. I wish you Africans would stop trying to quote American
What do you
history.
think George Washington did?
That's
He was throwing
not what
flowers
he
at the
did.
British, and that was the
Bruh,
government.
could you shut up? George Washington
Oh,
did
stop
not.
it. By force. They took
No,
over another government by force.
Bro, listen to what I'm telling you. No, they didn't. This is where you guys are liars. The U.S. founding fathers never tried to overthrow the British government. They never did.
Yes, they did. In
No,
America,
they
they did. They did in the U.S. What are you talking about?
There was no government in the United States territory, in the North
Somebody
American
was in
territory.
charge.
That was a colony.
Yes, and
Yes.
that colony, you took over from the people that were governing the colony.
What? So that colony separated from the British. That is
by
different.
overthrowing it in that colony.
You're wrong again. That colony separated from the British. They did not go to Britain and try to overthrow the British government. You're wrong.
Couldn't, but
All right, we back. Now, this is why, like I said, you cannot, once you get caught up in these American, political culture wars where you get involved in these different factions, you cannot be honest in your discussion. My man Brandon really tried to hop on a live stream and say that George Washington did not lead an armed rebellion against the British. He did not lead a coup d'etat against the British. He did not overthrow the British by the force of arms. Bro, come on, bro. Yes, he was. George Washington was the stereotypical military leader and, dare I say, authoritarian, dictatorial tyrant, non-democratically elected, you know what I mean? Because black men couldn't even vote at that time. It was only elite white men that could vote. So it wasn't even democracy at that time. He was a damn stereotypical dictator, human trafficker who held human beings in bondage. So you want to talk about Ibrahim Traoré, but you want to, tap dance for George Washington. Fuck out of here, bro. You could throw any accusation you want at Ibrahim Traoré, but one thing you cannot say is he is holding human beings in bondage at his private residence. If you want to be honest, Ibrahim Traoré is 100,000 times more democratic than George Washington. George Washington didn't even let white women get involved in government. At least in Burkina Faso, there's black women involved in government. And I guarantee if you had a conversation with our forefathers who were alive during that time, they would describe George Washington as an authoritarian, autocratic, despotic, undemocratic, oppressive, overbearing, high-handed, tyrannical ruler. And they also would probably say he stinks and his breath smells like shit. So stop tap dancing for these. Bro, this is why I can't get involved in these political factions in America, because it gets crazy after a while. Let's continue.
Compared to what was there before?
Bro, if you want to compare this little Burkina Faso dust mite to George Washington was asked to become the king of the American colony. He said, I won't be your king, but I will be your president. He did not declare himself ruler for life. He was asked to be the leader. He said, okay, I'll be your executive. Now, if Ibrahim was like, yo, I'm going to be your executive or whatever, first I would need people who are representatives of the people to ask him to do that. This guy ran a military coup and appointed himself the leader of Burkina Faso.
All these are just nuances.
And he overthrew a democratically elected government.
They all overthrew a government, and
they didn't.
See, It's just a matter of semantics. You're just saying
You know
George
what
Washington
I'm talking
did
about.
this because it's America. So that one it's all perfect because George Washington says, "Oh, I'm not going to be a king, but I'm just going to rule you anyway." But Traoré's own, because he's a black African, his
George
own
Washington,
standard is different.
All right, we back. Now, overall, I don't even have a problem with Brandon having an opinion on the subject. You want to believe that Ibrahim Traoré is an oppressive, tyrannical dictator? That's fine, but at least let's be consistent. If we're going to call Ibrahim Traoré a dictator, then we're going to have to throw 100,000 times more slander on George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all them white dudes from back in the day. But here's the thing. They can never stay consistent when it comes to that. When it comes to this political faction, these political culture wars in America, nobody could ever stay consistent in their ideology, man. Everybody always going to be flip-flopping and tap dancing and moving the goalposts. Now, in this section of the video, Brandon tries to give some democratic legitimacy to George Washington by saying that he declared that I'll be your leader. Who did he ask? He didn't ask black man. He didn't ask the black man. So who the fuck did he ask? He asked his fellow elite white men. That's who he asked. So he's trying to make it seem like George Washington had some semblance of democracy in his leadership. It was no democracy at all, bro. It was rich white men running shit, and that was that. The white women had no say, the black man had no say, the black woman had no say. It was just elite white men who owned slaves. That was it, bro. Ain't nothing democratic about that. If you want to be honest, it was a criminal enterprise going down. It was a government led by human traffickers, military leaders, criminals, and degenerate bloodthirsty savages. That's what it was about, bro. That's what it was about. And I guarantee if anything like that was happening in the modern day, if there was an African president who had hundreds of human beings locked in bondage on his private residence, the Western media would be going crazy. They'd be in a frenzy slandering his name. But you want to venerate George Washington, bro. I'm not hearing no George Washington worship. Bro, stop. Get off your knees, dust off your knees, stop sucking off George Washington. I can only imagine what Brandon would say if it came out that President Ibrahim Traoré had over 300 citizens locked in bondage on his private residence. I can only imagine the slander. I can only imagine the accusations. I can only imagine. But because it's George Washington, oh man, the white man, oh man, the big white man. Man, stop, bro. Stop. I don't got no respect for these motherfuckers, bro. George Washington, and I'm gonna say it again, he was a non-democratically elected military leader who overthrew his government in a violent revolt. He wasn't elected by the representatives of the people, like Brandon said. He was elected by his fellow military leaders. You know what I'm saying? His fellow wealthy white planters. That's who elected him. Okay, it wasn't the people. And it most definitely was not our people, because we had no say in government at that time. So, like I said, I don't got a problem with Brandon's position on the topic, but at least be consistent. Have the same energy for all military rulers who come to power by coup d'etat, by armed rebellion, by the force of arms. Have the same energy for them all. I could halfway respect Brandon's position if he kept the same energy for George Washington. If he said, okay, you believe Ibrahim Traoré is a dictator, I don't agree with you, but that's your opinion. But if you also kept the same energy for the quote-unquote founding fathers, then at least I could say, okay, these are your values, these are your principles, and they do not change. But your principles seem to change based on who's being discussed. And, that's something we got to call into question. But like I said, that's typically what happens when you get involved in these different American political factions. You have to defend your political faction by any means necessary. Now, let's continue.
Or, since we have democratic processes and we can vote and all this other stuff, that just because we're cheering on a military dictator, we just like are trying to be hypocrites and stuff. Like, no, that's how change happens. Usually it's through a dictator or a military man of some type.
An American. And
yes. And guess what? A military leader called George Washington.
Let me talk. I let you talk. I let you talk extensively. Bro, you are an American. You would never settle for that. You're saying what's good enough for you is not good enough for them. And that is where there's a problem, because we're not letting the people decide what they want. What we're doing is saying this guy came in, decided he's in charge, shut down all information coming out of that place, and we're going to hope that things are going okay. No, you have to see what's going on in that place so that you can know that he might be doing a good thing. But someone usually, when someone's hiding behind safety and all that shit, they're probably doing something fucked up that they don't want the world to know about. So usually when they're doing the right thing, they let in the people who come and oversee stuff. That's why these things exist, AFR. And 90% of the countries agree this is necessary. UN.
Brandon says he has a problem with military rulers because they come in and they decide that, oh, I'm in charge and we do not consult with the people and the people did not democratically elect their leaders. But like I said, man, you can say the same exact thing for George Washington, man. Like I said, the biggest blemish on his legacy is the fact that he held hundreds of human beings in bondage on his private residence. I mean, that right there is worthy of no respect. That right there alone is worthy of zero respect. Just for that alone, he gets no respect. Number 2, there was no democratic processes in George Washington's time. Like I told you, the only people who had a say in government and could democratically elect their leaders was the planter class, the wealthy military rulership owning planter class. And it was not only George Washington. The same thing held true for John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James Polk, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, Abraham Lincoln, etc., etc. These men did not come to power or maintain their power through democracy, and they did not establish their power and their economy through what you call good governance. No, they established and maintained their economy through tyrannical, dictatorial, authoritarian regimes based on slavery, the enslavement of human beings, holding people in bondage on their private residence. They politically disenfranchised their rivals and their opponents in whole entire communities, and they maintained their economy and built their economy through slavery, the violation of human rights. That was their foundation of their power. And like I told you on my channel before, like I said, life is about power, not morality. So I'm not over here crying about it. It's just a fact of the matter. But at least be consistent in your ideology. If you feel so strongly about democracy, if you feel so strongly about human rights, then I need to see the same exact video you make talking shit and going in and slandering the fuck out of all them American presidents I named earlier in the video, bro. I want to see a video on George Washington. I want to see a video on Thomas Jefferson. I want to see a video on James Monroe, James Madison. I want to see a video on Andrew Jackson, especially, because he was a real deal tyrant. I want to see a video on all these so-called founding fathers that you love to suck off so goddamn much. You Republican, conservative, tap dancing, Donald Trump supporting. Listen, I want to see you do a video with the same energy, because listen, everything you said about Ibrahim Traoré, that was all speculation. That was all just, it was all speculation. But everything I mentioned about the founding fathers, that was facts, documented facts. We got the documented evidence on that. So, like I said, man, to summarize it, if you truly have a problem with democratic processes not being followed, if you truly have a problem with so-called human rights being violated, then I need to see that video on George Washington, man. I need to see that video on all the American presidents, bro. I need to see it, man. Because if you ask me, if you put President Ibrahim Traoré on the scale, and you put any of those so-called American founding fathers on the scale, and you want to weigh up the human rights abuses and violations, you want to weigh up the democratic violations, listen, I think that the American founding fathers going to have Ibrahim Traoré beat by a very long mile, by a very long distance. I think they're going to have him beat. I think they're going to have him beat. Last time I checked, Ibrahim Traoré doesn't have any citizens locked in his basement like them founding fathers did. Last time I checked, in any African country, there are not any ethnic groups or tribes that are banned from participating in the electoral process, right? When it's time to vote, anybody can come out and vote. But in the days of the American founding fathers, the black man had no say. The black woman had no say over who our elected leaders were. We were at the mercy of these authoritarian regimes, these dictatorial tyrants who violated our human rights on a daily basis. That's what it was. That's what it was. And all I'm saying is, bro, at least be consistent in your ideology. If you want to call Ibrahim Traoré a dictator based on speculation, then you have to call George Washington 10 times worse based on the facts and the evidence. Now, anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari, that's Celine, back in the building, yes indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in the ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This is an art and they can never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you in court. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so Elise. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands, cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.